Hi, it's Danielle. This is my perfume journal where I document my love of perfume. So, this month's edition of Perfume Collecting for Regular People is officially renamed Perfume Collecting for People Who Make Impulsive and Irresponsible Financial Decisions Around Their Hobby, because Vacation Danielle was in full force this month. But even before I went on vacation, I splurged on a couple other perfumes, but I have to say I have zero regrets. Sometimes the nose wants what the nose wants. So I am going to be dialing it back for a while, which is just fine because I have plenty of perfume to keep me occupied and happy. Okay, so May started out with two really wonderful perfumes that I added to my collection. First up, this is Caldera Flower from Wit& West. Wit& West is a fantastic independent artisan perfumery that focuses on naturals and botanicals. And Whitney, the perfumer, creates many of her own materials for her perfumes right out of her garden. She is an incredibly creative perfumer. Many of her perfumes pay homage to her own experiences, her travels, and things that have been like personally meaningful to her in some way. She is what I consider a true artist of perfumery. And like everything on this channel, this is not sponsored in any way. I got to know Wit through the fragrance community over the years. I have followed her over on Instagram for a really long time, and I really respect what she is doing with her brand. It is unique, it is artistic, it veers away from the mainstream, and her work with botanicals have presented me with aspects of the art of perfumery that I have really come to appreciate and enjoy. So Caldera Flower is the latest addition to her line. It was inspired by the lush tropical environment of the area surrounding the Rio Caldera in Baru National Park in Panama. And so everything about this perfume paints a picture of that environment. It is a beautiful blend of humidity-loving florals, sunbeams. There is thick greenery in this. There are shimmering, sparkly ripples of water and just a slight breeziness. So in perfume language, we're talking ginger, neroli, ylang ylang, gardenia, magnolia. There is sandalwood and ambrette and just a little teeny tiny touch of vanilla. It is absolutely magical, so much so that I purchased this bottle after just one spritz of a sample hit my skin. It feels modern, it feels classic at the same time. It feels happy, but it's also kind of wistful or nostalgic, like when you come back from a really memorable trip and you just want to like hold on to that feeling of that place as long as you can. And as you can probably tell, I am smitten with this perfume. And it was well worth busting the budget for this month to add a perfume like this to my collection. I also clicked add to cart so fast on the latest Shalimar flanker, the Millésime Rose. So for a long time, Shalimar enthusiasts and collectors have been anxiously awaiting this Millésime. And so in preparation for this video, I actually counted the number of Shalimars that are currently listed on Parfumo, and this Millésime Rose flanker makes number 45. So there are 45 Shalimars on that database. So of the Millésime collection, this is the fifth one, following the Vanilla Planifolia from 2021, the Millésime Tonka from 2022, the Iris of 2023, and the Jasmine of 2024. And then Guerlain skipped a Millésime in 2025 to give us the 100th anniversary Shalimar l'Essence, but it is back in 2026 with a Millésime Rose. So this has been an interesting one to read reviews on because the reviews are really mixed. Perhaps it is because the rose has been so long awaited and anticipated. Sometimes, like when that happens, people can't help but to be a little bit disappointed because they've built it up so much in their minds. And admittedly, my own first go with the Shalimar Millésime Rose was not a total love at first sniff. I actually wanted more rose, a lot more rose. I didn't want like a sharp, biting rose, but at first I didn't get that kind of like, yes, there's the rose like I did with the jasmine flanker, which I loved the jasmine in that flanker immediately. But this Millésime has grown on me exponentially since that first sniff. And now I really, really appreciate the light hand that Delphine Jelk has taken with this Shalimar. So, of all of the Millésime flankers, this one I think is the furthest from the original Shalimar of all of them. It's like a softer watercolored Shalimar. It has like brushed edges and a very delicate touch. It doesn't feel watered down. That's like not the experience I'm getting here, but it does feel like the original Shalimar has had a filter placed over it. And when you look at the other notes that make this Millésime rose, it all kind of comes together and makes sense. The roses in this Millésime are rosewater, centifolia rose, and damask rose. So to me, it smells light and petally and pink, a little bit jammy. It's very soft and sweet. So I think if this Millésime rose had been loaded up with like huge dark red roses, then it would make more sense for the deeper ambery, leathery qualities of Shalimar to be amplified. But instead, Delphine Jelk has gone in a more like subtle, nuanced direction with this Shalimar profile. And so on the heels of that L'Essence Anniversary Edition, that feels kind of right to me. So L'Essence really brought out the ambery, smoky, super vanillic qualities of Shalimar, whereas Millésime Rose leans into that floral heart of Shalimar, the softer side of Shalimar. In addition to the beautiful florals, there is a soft incense that's coming out in this perfume, which I think rose and incense are just like a really heavenly match. There's also a very distinct almondy quality to this Shalimar that is unique to any of the Millesimes or any of the flankers that I've tried so far, which I really enjoy. And so I am really, really happy that there is something new happening here in the world of the Shalimars. I will also say that as a big fan of the discontinued Shalimar L'Initiale, which is the Shalimar that Thierry Wasser created to be like someone's first Shalimar, this Millésime Rose to me would be a great replacement for that. Now, I know the Millésime Rose isn't going to stick around, it will be limited, but to me, this would be someone's perfect first Shalimar. So, all in all, I am very pleased that I took the plunge and splurged on this bottle. Do I need a backup of this limited flanker? No, but I will wear this to the very last drop with great, great enjoyment. So, these two initial purchases already put me well over my budget for May. Then I went on my vacation, and my alter ego, Vacation Danielle, slowly emerged from the depths. And at first, I have to say, I was extremely well controlled. I stopped into a Laboratorio Olfativo shop. I smelled the entire new line of florals that have been created by the genius Jean-Claude Ellena. There is a rose, a jasmine, and Be Still My Heart, a carnation, all very Jean-Claude Ellena coated, very watercolory, very lightly musked, nothing heavy, really a beautiful collection of floral compositions focused around these singular blooms. And I have to say, if they had offered the line in their usual 30 ml bottles, I would have instantly purchased all three. But they only came in 100 ml bottles, so I resisted, and I was pretty proud of myself for showing this level of self control for three such beautiful perfumes. Then I popped into a Santa Maria Novella shop on a mission to pick up two scented terracotta pomegranates at the request of my sister-in-law. She is the queen of backup home fragrances, and so she sent me to pick her up a couple of these pomegranates. And so with that purchase, I was gifted a huge number of samples. I got 10 samples plus a squeezy packet of Rosa Gardenia liquid soap. Very, very generous of that shop owner at that particular Santa Maria Novella. She was also there handing out chocolates to her customers. Really, really sweet. No perfume purchases. And so I was proud of my self-control once again, and on we went. So then, several days later, we were walking the streets of a little town in Italy called San Gimignano. It's a medieval town in the area of Tuscany, and it's known as the Manhattan of Italy because it features over a dozen tall towers. Each one was built as like a sign of wealth, Like the higher the tower, the more boastful the pockets, I guess. So my perfume radar started beeping, and we veered into a lovely little perfume shop called Divina Toscana. And the shelves were so beautifully lined with mostly Italian brands. It was a really, really nice curation of brands. There was Nobile 1942, Mio Fusciuni, Laboratorio Olfattivo, Acqua di Parma, Carthusia, on and on and on. And in the corner, I noticed four very colorful bottles placed just kind of out of the way. And they were Michela Mezzetti perfume. These are a line of perfumes that I had been wanting to try for some time. And so I beelined over the corner to smell them. And I said to the shopkeeper, the shop owner, "Oh, you have Michela Mezzetti perfumes. I have been so interested in trying them." And her face lit up and she said, "I'm Michela Mezzetti." And so I embarrassed myself by screaming, "Oh my gosh," and immediately hugged her. I could not help myself. I was so happy to meet her. And I was going on and on about how beautiful her shop was and how exciting this moment was on my trip. So then I calmed down and took my time sniffing through all of her perfumes, and I found them all to be so enjoyable. They are super fun, mostly gourmand creations, and they are filled with whimsy and joy, and they most definitely lean into the style of Italian gourmand perfumery that I have come to love over the years. I have often said that Italian perfume houses make the best gourmands, and I stand by that statement. I think it might have something to do with like the love and adoration for good food in the Italian culture that translates so beautifully into that style of perfumery. Okay, so funnily enough, after smelling through Michela Mezzetti's entire line, I actually settled on the least gourmand scent of the line to add to my collection, and it's called Breathe Me. I think I chose this one because it encompasses everything I love about Italy in one spray. There is this distinct salt air accord in the scent that you could match to either like the Amalfi Coast or an olive grove with a breeze blowing through it. You can smell the early evening aperitivo in an April and white wine accord. You can smell the cypress trees that line the gravel roads that lead up to the old abandoned farmhouses. You can smell the wisteria that drips from archways and old buildings and wild vines in the spring. You can smell the wildflowers in the meadows. And all of it is like wrapped up in a big hug of sweet, sun warmed skin. It is evocative, but it's also completely wearable. It's so pretty. And just like a trip to Italy, it is an instant mood lifter. And so I've been wearing this one a lot since returning home, and I am really, really happy that I now have this perfume in my memory box of scents. Michela also gave me a discovery set of her entire line, so I'm really excited to sniff through the rest of them and talk about them more on my channel. And then she made me a nice decant of, okay, I hope I can pronounce this correctly, La Danza della Libellule. La Danza della Libellule. Libellule. Anyway, I'm actually wearing it right now as I'm making this video. It's like a green apple chocolate scent, and it's delicious. I'm really, really enjoying it. So we exchanged socials and we hugged again. So thank you, Michela, for making my visit to your shop so wonderful. Thank you for being so warm and welcoming. I hope you see this. And I'm absolutely loving Breathe Me. It is both a beautiful scent and now for me also a beautiful memory. So our trip went on and I managed several more days of self-control until I stumbled into an Ortigia shop. So Ortigia is a perfume brand that I had zero experience with, that I don't really see featured too much on socials. So I was greeted very warmly by a sales associate who gave me a really nice overview of the line's offerings, and then she left me on my own to sniff and sample. Can I just say that this is how it should be done? I so much prefer being left on my own to explore and then go back to a sales associate with questions. Like, In contrast, in one of the larger department stores, I was hovered over, I was looked up and down, I was told sternly to only use blotters, not to sniff from the cap, which fair, I get it. But having that like constant company and observation while trying to explore, it actually makes me feel really uncomfortable. Like I just want to be left alone, but I get it. They have a job to do and that's what they're doing. But when you have an experience like the one I had in Ortigia, it makes me actually far more likely to make a purchase because I don't feel rushed. I don't feel pressured. I can take my time. I can explore what I am interested in, not what a sales associate is trying to show me. And so that is exactly what I did there. I smelled through the entire line and I loved it. Why is nobody talking about this brand? Ortigia is a Sicilian brand that is inspired by the region in its scents, its colors, its patterns. Besides perfumes, they have soaps, they have candles, they have clothing, they have accessories. The perfume line is organized into citrus, floral, ambery, woody categories. And I loved that the line offered 10 ml rollerball oils, 30 ml perfume bottles, and 100 ml perfume bottles. I could have easily walked away with one version or another of pretty much everything in the line. I loved the simple elegance of the compositions, and from what I could tell, Lorenzo Villoresi is the primary perfumer of most, if not all, of the fragrances. And that made complete sense when I discovered that because one of the perfumes that I actually purchased in a rollerball formulation is called Aragona. And surprise, surprise, it's a powdery floral. And it reminded me a lot when I smelled it of Lorenzo Villoresi's popular Tente Neige. But in Aragona, there is like a buttery floral and an almond element added to the powderiness. So I just thought it was interesting that I could pick up on the similarities between Tente Neige and Aragona, and turns out same perfumer. And then I also picked up a rollerball of Ambra Nera. Not really the time of year for it for me right now in the Northern Hemisphere, but I am surely not going to be returning to an Ortigia shop between now and the colder months. So Ambra Nera is a wonderfully spicy, woody perfume with a big dose of labdanum, and I think this is going to be a nice addition to the woody section of my perfume cabinet, and since it's an oil, it might also be a nice base underneath some of my favorite woody or incense perfumes like Stash or Adorum from Nez. I'm not a big layering person, but sometimes I do like to put like a light swatch of an oil on my skin before applying an alcohol-based perfume because it will give that like little bit of extra lasting power, or it will change up a familiar scent just a little tiny bit. Which, speaking of the topic of layering, on the way back when we were returning home, I was lingering around duty free, smelling about as much as my nose could handle. And before I got on the plane, I did not put on my usual Infusion de Riz from Prada. Instead, I discovered a surprise combination that was absolutely fabulous and totally unexpected. So first, I went over to the Hermes counter because I have always loved the oil version of Musk Pallida, and they have recently come out with an EDP version of that, and I really wanted to try it. And it did not disappoint. It is a beautiful musk. It's rooty, it's a little bit earthy, it's not dirty, but it's not clean either. It almost has that like carrot seed feeling to it that I love in some of my favorite Rudy Iris perfumes. So I sprayed myself very liberally with that very expensive perfume at duty free. Then I strolled on over to the Guerlain section, and I don't know what compelled me to do this. I doused myself in Flora Bloom from the Aqua Allegoria line. And I have to say that together, this was the most phenomenal combination. Somebody please, please, please make a mango tuberose musk perfume because that's what this layering combo gave me. I am now completely obsessed with trying to find a mango tuberose musk perfume. I did a quick note search on Parfumo, and that led me to a few perfumes that I'd like to try. Chasing Sunsets from Maison Margiela's replica line, Bombay Bling from the wonderful Neela Vermeer, and Tropic of Capricorn from Olympic Orchid. So if anyone watching has tried any of these, I would love to know your thoughts on them. Do they give you a profile of mango tuberose musk? Because that is what I am now searching for. And finally, I added 9 samples to my sample box this month. Most of them were for the upcoming May sniff-along. If you're new to the channel, I actually started hosting free perfume sniff-alongs every month. It's a virtual place for perfume enthusiasts to get together and sniff through a handful of perfumes on a particular theme and just talk about them. Sometimes it is hard to find real life people who understand the deep interest that we share in perfume. And so these sniff-alongs are a way for like-minded perfume people to nerd out over fragrances in a very safe space. The theme for the May sniff-along is Think Pink. It has already filled up. I will be hosting more in the upcoming months, and I'm hoping to be able to offer more time slots if my schedule permits. And I'm also really happy that ScentSplit agreed to partner with me for these sniff-alongs. They provided me with a discount code. It is Journal10. Anyone can use it at any time for a purchase at ScentSplit. And full transparency, this is not an affiliate code. I am not receiving any kind of a commission. This is just a discount code that I asked for to pass along to you. There is nothing in it for me. So if you would like to use my discount code, Journal10, please do. It is just for you, no commission for me. Enjoy. So anyway, I will talk about the sniff-along samples and the others that I added to my order in future videos. I have been doing a lot more sampling this year, and even though this month is, as you can see, an outlier, I am pretty satisfied with my collection at the moment, and I don't have a lot of full bottles on my wish list, so I am just enjoying giving my nose and my mind some really good olfactory exercise. Okay, so I'm a little scared to look at the bottom line here this month, but I promised transparency on this channel and in this series, so here we go. So I added a total of 3 bottles, 2 roller balls, and 21 samples to my collection this month. And because I was on vacation for a good chunk of the month, I did not declutter anything, so it's only ins for this month for May. As for the dollars and cents, I have shared. So on to the dollars and cents, and I have shared in every single video that I have made in this series that my budget for my perfume hobby is a maximum of $150 a month. And I also share in every single video that I acknowledge and recognize that this is a significant privilege, having any fun money to spend at all. It was not always the case for me, and I know that it is definitely not the case for many people. So no matter how hard I work, I remain very grateful that I have the ability to enjoy a hobby and take a vacation. None of that is lost on me, that these things are absolute luxuries. And perfume is like only one part of who I am as a whole person. So when I am not obsessing over fragrances and talking about them on this channel, the rest of me is trying very hard to put out and do good in this world. So I started out the month totally over budget with one purchase. The Millésime Rose Shalimar alone put me over my entire budget for the month. That perfume came to a total of $168.56. But did I stop there? No, I did not. Even before I left for vacation, I had already spent almost double my budget on the Shalimar, the Caldera flower, and the samples for the sniff-along. So then my vacation purchases came to a total of $210.34. So this month, I spent a grand total of $507.09, which is $357.09 over my monthly budget. Now, I have absolutely no regrets on any of these purchases. I love all of the perfumes that I added to my collection for very different reasons. I now have a new, beautiful artisan perfume by a perfumer I know, I admire, and I respect. I have a treasured new Shalimar in my collection, and I have perfumes that are attached to some really lovely travel memories, and I have a bunch of samples that I am going to enjoy very much with friends next week. I will, however, be extremely careful with my purchases for the next 3 or 4 months. Unless something really special comes along or I do a swap with a friend, I am going to pause on adding any full bottles to my collection, and I'm only going to purchase samples for my sniff-alongs and maybe one or two others that pique my interest. I started this series specifically to show how I have been able to maintain this rather expensive hobby and interest as a perfume enthusiast on a budget that works for me in a way that is financially responsible for me, because I think it's far too easy to spend beyond one's means for many reasons. There is social media influence, there are recommendations from trusted noses, there is the pure enjoyment of so many beautiful scents. So there are positive and negative impacts to this hobby. And so that is why it has been important to me to be transparent and open about my own perfume collecting habits and how I have learned to enjoy the positives and manage the negatives by being as thoughtful as I possibly can. So there is my recap of the month of May for this particular perfume enthusiast, what I have added to my collection, and what I have spent in total. I hope that you enjoy this series. I hope it's helpful or interesting or informative to you in some way. And if so, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I am really, really happy to be building a very, very nice community of like-minded perfume enthusiasts here. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch the videos that I so enjoy creating. So thanks again for being here. Thank you for watching, and thanks for chatting perfumes with me in the comments. I love, love, love to hear from you. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.